Good morning. This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company, and I'm wiping down my car as usual, doing my morning chores, and it's good to get some fresh air early in the morning. The people who go to work are going back and forth, and people starting their day, which is good to know. You know, that people are contributing and trying to take part in this economy for whatever it's worth. Anyway, people are coming and going. Fresh air early in the morning. Should have a very relaxing today. I worked my butt off yesterday in the gym. As usual, 4 to 5 hours. Top it off with a sauna and then some stretching exercises to cool down. And today, I don't do anything but relax and let my muscles mend and get some rest. Just trying to do as little as possible on my days off. And let me see what else is going on. Kavanaugh is getting grilled by the senators and congressmen. Anonymous leaker, if you will, telling us what he really feels about Donald Trump, which is hilarious. I've never seen such a circus in my whole life. But that's good. We don't have to tune into reality TV. We don't have to watch a special show. We can just pay attention to what's going on in the White House, and that's our entertainment. As sad as it is, that's what we have to look forward to right now, for whatever amount of time it lasts. What else is going on? Let's see. Kaepernick is making a little bit of headway with his new partnership with Nike, and looks like, for better or for worse, Nike is going to be able to give Kaepernick a platform by which to make sure that the whole world finds out as much as possible about the plight of professional athletes who want to have a voice, who want to have a role to play outside of just throwing the footballs and the baseballs and whatever else. I guess these are real people after all. Who would imagine? What else is going on? Can't remember what else is going on. Things will come to mind later. I think I better introduce myself, just in case you guys don't know who I am. My name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. And I think I should cut my ringer off on my phone, because some idiot will want to call me and disrupt my podcast. That's usually when people want to disrupt you, when you're trying to take care of something, right? Let's see. Okay, that's off. Yeah, I run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all of the products. 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent as well. And layaway, I think I did mention that. What else? Oh yeah, huge and growing number of articles, videos, podcasts, and blogs. Just a very large amount of information or content. We are one of the largest content providers. You're going to find, particularly online or offline, for a particular company, you know, we put a lot of emphasis on generating content and making it available free of charge for people who, I think the millennials and certain people just don't want to pay for anything at all. So they should have a good time, you would think, on our website. Well, a lot of that free information being available to them. What else? Bitcoin integrated into the shopping cart for you Bitcoin millionaires. For those of us who did quite well with our Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum and Bcash investments, you want to spend some of that those excess profits with us. We don't mind at all. Like I know, if you've been into this thing 5 or 6 years, you are doing just fine. So we don't mind if you want to share some of that wealth with us, and we'll make sure you get some neat toys to play with. I know a lot of people out there, they just like neat spy gadget toys and such. They're called early adopters, and particularly in the crypto space. We all like new technologies, and our items are, of course, lifetime guaranteed and warranted, and law enforcement grade, and state of the art, blah blah blah. So, and we support them around the clock, 24/7, 365, with those warranties. So, and the noise you hear in the background is me wiping down my car. It's already clean, but out of habit, I just can't help but to go over it while I clear the cobwebs out of my head and get some fresh air at the same time as I watch people come and go to work and all that stuff. What else is going on? Let's see. Oh yeah, got the Bitcoin in the shopping cart. Website has been redesigned. Should be easy to use, easy to find, easy to navigate. If you have any complications, if you have any questions regarding the new website, let me know. Or just give me some feedback. Is it good, bad, or what? Let's see what else is going on. We want to make sure you guys understand. We want you to learn and understand what Visa and MasterCard and American Express and Discover and what those guys have done and are doing to the retail industry in the way of gouging us and taking advantage and controlling what we merchants can do, particularly with our own businesses, by way of useless, nonsensical chargebacks and disputes. Customers, unfortunately, abuse their credit card privileges, and we want you guys to understand, you merchants particularly, that the time has come to step away from feeding those vampires who suck out literally $70 billion worth of financial resources out of the retail industry every single year in the way of, fees, in the way of fees, discount fees, settlement fees, batch fees, service fees, you name it, they got a fee for it. I think at some point they just start making up names for these fees just so they can have additional fees. And use your Bitcoin, use your cryptocurrencies to do transactions. That money goes right from your pocket to my pocket and vice versa. And we can circumvent and deny those guys the financial resources that they need to keep going, which is good, because if we can keep the money in our own pockets, then we can starve them to death, while at the same time we can enrich our own life and take back financial sovereignty, which is a big deal. Should be a big deal for you guys. Hopefully you want financial sovereignty versus being slaves to the current economic system. I don't know why anybody would want to be financially oppressed as compared to having financial sovereignty. Okay. So anyway, what are we doing today? Good question. What are we talking about today? Glad you asked. Today we're going to take a look at a concept. For you Bitcoiners out there, you're going to love this. We are going to be talking about what we call HyperBitcoinization. Again, this HyperBitcoinization. How currency crises are driving nations to crypto. Venezuela, Turkey, Iran, and Zimbabwe, these countries are all facing ongoing economic crisis. They're all suffering from high levels of inflation, and as a result, as a result, the people living within them are increasingly turning to crypto as a store of value and a means of exchange. Their recent troubles have heightened the distant possibility that at some point in the future, hyper-Bitcoinization would take place, with Bitcoin or some other coin replacing the Bolivar, the the Lira, the Real, and other struggling national currencies, and perhaps even becoming the world's dominant form of money, as predicted by the likes of Steve Wozniak and Jack Dorsey. I think it's very commonly accepted that Jack Dorsey and Steve Wozniak, they are two credible people, having been there with the founding of Twitter, and I think Jack Dorsey was Square, or was that Stripe? But one or the other, Jack Dorsey and Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak's responsible basically for making sure that we got Microsoft. He was there alongside Paul Allen and Steve Ballmer and, of course, Bill Gates. So Steve Wozniak knows a little bit about innovations and technology. So, and Jack Dorsey, again, having given us Twitter, and I think it's Stripe or Square. You guys can check it out. Or if I find a link to his company, I'll put that in there. But yeah, these guys know a little bit about innovation. So if they say Bitcoin could very well become the dominant currency or world reserve currency, I want to pay attention to that. If you want to pay attention, that's fine. But I think I need to pay attention to that. Because based upon what I know about Bitcoin, based upon what I know about the Federal Reserve and central bankers and all that, they just may have something there. Okay, so moving right along. However, as encouraging as such developments are for Bitcoin's reputation as a store of value, it's unlikely that the moves of Turkish, Venezuelan, and Zimbabwean citizens toward it and other cryptocurrencies are an immediate precursor to the kinds of blanket adoption processes outlined in the 2014 HyperBitcoinization article by Daniel Krowitz. Let's see. Even though they're conspicuously increasing, the BTC volumes traded in the affected countries above are not significant enough relative to global volumes, while the isolated nature of most of these nations means that adoption has little chance of spreading outward. Okay, I'm going to get into why I think, in addition to some of the troubles ailing these countries, are going to be such that they're going to attract Bitcoin. There's other things we want to consider in terms of what makes a country attractive for as far as the citizens are concerned for using Bitcoin. Okay, we'll get into that and I'll explain what I mean in a bit. Added to this, for as long as such global reserve currencies as the dollar, the euro, and the Japanese yen remain stable, crypto adoption won't be boosted by high inflation in nations where the population has access to such currencies, and not to mention gold. Venezuela. Let's take a look at Venezuela particularly. The textbook case of crisis-driven crypto adoption is Venezuela, with the first report, excuse the noise. As I mentioned, people are going to work and doing whatever they do at work. And my hat is off to them. Good luck with that. Venezuela, the textbook case of crisis-driven crypto adoption is Venezuela, with the first report on Venezuelans turning to Bitcoin arriving in October 2014, according to Reuters. Venezuelans were being driven to the cryptocurrency by the capital controls imposed by President Hugo Chavez in 2003, which made it excruciatingly hard for them to obtain U.S. dollars, given that even then, hyperinflation was in motion in Venezuela. At 68.5%, locals began purchasing and mining Bitcoin, which stood at $388.30 by the beginning of that October, despite having fallen by around 49% since the beginning of the year. I think it's interesting, worth noting that Bitcoin was trading at $388, and the inflation rate was 68.5%. And I think the reason why I want you guys to understand, Bitcoin seems like it goes up in some sort of vacuum, and it's like purely market driven or speculator driven or something. But notice how in certain countries, the more devastated your economy is, the more you're going to pay for Bitcoin. So it seems like there's a direct correlation between how Bitcoin is really actually reflecting the devalued nature of your currency, your local currency, as compared to Bitcoin responding to just speculative demand. As you'll see further in the article, the worse off the country is with its own financial economic crisis and such, the more those citizens, the more of a premium you're going to pay. So again, I think Bitcoin is really like a reflection of how stable, how strong your currency is, or how weak it is, for that matter, as compared to whatever you're going to pay in the market for it. So let's try to keep that in mind to see if Bitcoin is giving us an idea of the financial stability of the various countries where people are trying to buy it. While data on the actual number of people using Bitcoin at this point isn't available, the Reuters article states that Venezuela already had at least several hundred Bitcoin enthusiasts. Somewhat less vaguely, CoinDance records that 625,573 Venezuelan Bolivar, or VEF, was traded for Bitcoin on the local Bitcoins peer-to-peer crypto exchange in the week of December 12th, 2014, equivalent to about $99,403.55 at the conversion rate at that time. Similarly, Crypto Compare lists a high for 2014 on December 24th at VEF $553,633.30, which at around $87,972.33 underlines how the volumes being traded weren't massive, particularly for a nation with a gross domestic product of $482 billion, even though they were growing as a result of economic pressure. All that just basically bears out to say, huge country, should have had maybe more impressive numbers as far as adoption, but at the same time, we don't want to take for granted that some citizens were definitely onto the idea that we need a store of value, and we're going to be acquiring some Bitcoins and just seeing whether or not we can preserve our wealth and move this money out of the country into some other places, perhaps where we can better control our financial destiny. Okay. And local Bitcoins is basically an over-the-counter or peer-to-peer way to exchange Bitcoins directly between individuals. So when you hear that term, just know that those guys are circumventing all possible attempts at someone interfering with those transactions, because people meet personally and they exchange Bitcoin between each other. So it's impossible for governments to get in the middle of those transactions, because me and you can meet anywhere, Starbucks, in a park, at a beach, or whatever. And as long as you have your cryptos on your wallet and I have my cryptos on my wallet, I can transfer them to you and vice versa, and no one can get in the way of that. So good luck banning that type of transaction or interaction between people. The Bitcoin market in Venezuela is indeed big and growing at a fast rate. The absence of exchanges have seemingly gone unnoticed, as most Bitcoin miners within the country trade informally with people they can trust, basically for reasons of privacy, as they seek to conceal their sources of wealth from the public. Coupled with the ability Bitcoin grants Venezuelans for resisting a government that has effectively robbed people of wealth by presiding over an inflationary regime. Its growing value over the course of 2015 to 16 gained an increasing popularity. Indeed, the local HyperBitcoin exchange told the Washington Post in March 2017 that the number of Bitcoin users expanded from around 450 in 2014 to 85,000 in 2016. So it looks like their local exchange in Venezuela, HyperBitcoin, did some dramatic numbers between, look like 2014 and 2016, again going from 450 all the way up to 85,000. So somebody's taking an interest over there, as explained by HyperBitcoin in the Washington Post. Once again, such numbers aren't massive for a country with a population of approximately 31.5 million, but the deteriorating situation in Venezuela has meant that they only increased further in 2017 and 18. For the week ending on June 24th, 2017, the VEF BTC market on local Bitcoins alone had reached a volume of VEF 9,200,450,540, according to CoinDance. This equated to around, 1 billion? I think 1 billion, 100. Let me see. At the time, while the week of December 30th, 2017, while the week of December 30th, 2017 saw a trading volume of, I think there's 281 million on local Bitcoins, or 2,815,250.42 according to then current black market exchange rates. So it looks like there's dramatic volumes on these exchanges, definitely, in Venezuela. Moving right along. This year, even with the advent of the state-controlled and oil-backed petro cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies more generally have continued to enjoy a strong increase in usage. In fact, Reuters has recently reported that no crypto exchanges are trading the petro and that no Venezuelan shops currently accept it, while the likes of Bitcoin have continued to see growth. Assuming the same crude volume to users ration that was evident at the end of 2016, example, Bitcoin's worth $105,589.15 traded by around 85,000 users. There were around 926,500,000 Bitcoin users in the week of August 18, 2018, when 673 Bitcoin was traded against 27.28 trillion Venezuelan bolivars on localbitcoins.com at the black market exchange rate of VEF 5,921,486.23 that applied prior to the Venezuelan government officially devaluing the bolivar by 95%. This equaled around 4.6 million. Excuse me. It looks like, as far as I can tell, definitely a whole lot of people caught on in Venezuela and started really exchanging those bolivars for Bitcoin. So that's something to take note of. Astronomical increases in the amount of people that are trading over there. Okay, moving right along. It's not clear to what extent traded volumes will continue to grow now that the government has devalued the bolivar, yet the economic pressures faced by Venezuela have caused its population to adopt Bitcoin more speedily than other nations with comparable GDP. For instance, in New Zealand and Romania, two countries the International Monetary Fund puts next to Venezuela in terms of GDP, the local Bitcoin's BTC market has grown by 875%, wow, and 2,400% respectively since 2013. By contrast, the local Bitcoin's BTC VEF pair market has grown by a staggering 67,300% since 2013, with 536 Bitcoin being traded in the week ending August 25th. If nothing else, this underlines the kind of boost hyperinflation can give to cryptocurrency adoption, and seen as how the IMF has predicted that inflation could reach 1 million% by the end of 2018, the boost is likely to be even bigger in the coming months. Yeah, I think inflation did reach 1 million% in Venezuela. So it looks like the IMF was spot on if they're predicting this for Venezuela. I think it was Venezuela. Or Argentina, one or the other. But yeah, definitely looks like the 67,300% increase in Venezuela in the number of people trading on localbitcoins.com. That type of growth is spectacular, and that indicates, you guys, that people are taking advantage of the opportunity to get out of the bolivar, get out of those local currencies, and get into something else as quickly as possible. Okay, moving right along. It's not only Bitcoin that has enjoyed the fruits of Venezuela's economic disaster, as other cryptocurrencies have also made inroads into the South American nation. Since at least September 2016, Venezuelans have also been avid users of Dash, whose faster confirmation times and lower transaction fees generally make it more convenient as a means of payment, buoyed by active moves on Dash's part to promote their coin among Venezuelans as an alternative to the bolivar and to Bitcoin. It's reportedly been the most popular cryptocurrency among local merchants, at least according to Dash themselves, with upward of 540 merchants in the country now accepting it as a means of payment. Let's move right along to Iran. Iran is another country that has been on the wrong end of U.S.-led sanctions in recent years, and like Venezuela, its national currency, the Rial, or IRR, is suffering from high inflation, although its current rate of 18% doesn't quite match the 82,000% currently seen in Venezuela, at least as of the time of this article. As recently as this April, the Real's rate of inflation was only 7.9%, yet this jumped to 9.7%. 13.7%, and then 18% in May, June, and July. Much like Venezuela, the Iranian government responded to this precipitous increase by announcing plans in late July for a state-run cryptocurrency, while the Iranian population had, by that point, already traded crypto worth $2.5 billion, according to a May report from Forbes. This was despite the government having introduced an April ban on banks dealing in cryptocurrencies. So yeah, you guys may want to take note of the idea that you can ban or try to ban a cryptocurrency in your country, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be effective and practical. Okay, if people are still trading $2.5 billion worth of cryptos, which are banned, I'm not quite sure whether or not that's a real ban. Okay, moving right along. And since April and May, there has been a noticeable uptick in the IRR BTC market on localbitcoins.com. For instance, between July 7th and July 28th, the volume of this market increased by 109.1% from IRR 9.467 billion to IRR 19.79 billion. That's roughly equivalent to 176,758.31 cents, according to black market conversion rates. By contrast, a country with a similarly sized GDP, Thailand, witnessed only a 27.6% increase over the same 2-week period from 12.2 million Thai baht, or THB, to Thai baht 15.6 million. That said, this latter figure equals 476,410, meaning that the BTC market is bigger in Thailand in absolute terms. More importantly, it also means that inflation crisis alone isn't enough to bring about widespread crypto adoption overnight, since it is clear that the Iranian market for crypto is not only small, but is hampered by legislation that makes it illegal. It has also been undermined by the enduring popularity of gold, which rose by 300% against IRR in the 3 months leading up to June, and which has reportedly replaced the U.S. dollar in local Iranian markets, according to the Iran Gold and Jewelry Association. I'm trying to get away from this noise here. Got the weed blowers and different people doing their little thing, of course. Zimbabwe. Another nation that has its own economic woes is Zimbabwe. In 2009, it abandoned its own national currency, the Zimbabwean dollar, doing so after a $1 trillion note was introduced and after the currency had braved 10 years of hyperinflation, the rate of which reaching as high as 231 million% in July 2008. Since then, the government has permitted the use of a variety of currencies, including the U.S. dollar, South African rand, and the euro. Yet this drastic measure introduces problems of its own, such as acute shortages of foreign cash. To combat this, the Zimbabwean government has been imposing capital controls, setting the latest this May, when the central bank limited the amount of USD people can withdraw from ATMs and send out of the country to $1,000. So again, with capital controls, hyperinflation, and a lack of fiat in the way of dollars, euros, yen, or something, that typically means that you're going to have a perfect storm for Bitcoin adoption. But as we're going to see, not every country has all of the pieces in place. But definitely, when you have, like in Zimbabwe, capital controls of $1,000 that you can send out of the country at any given point in time, you definitely have to think of other ways. So if you want to spur Bitcoin adoption in your country, put strict capital controls on the money. Moving right along. In the face of such restrictions, Bitcoin witnessed price increases above the global average on the Zimbabwean Golex exchange at the end of 2017, with the price even doubling in November as locals sought to obtain currency that wasn't controlled or restricted by the government. It was also in November that Golex celebrated a quadrupling of its monthly transactions, around the time when the country had been destabilized by fresh dollar shortages, 50% inflation affecting the new bond notes the government introduced in November 2016, and a military coup. Consequently, Golex saw its monthly trading volume increase to 1 million, which was an impressive feat considering that over the entire course of 2016, it handled a grand total of 100,000. So it looks like trading volume definitely picked up, and it was no coincidence that people were trying to get that money out of that local currency or local currencies, or this mix of currencies rather, into bitcoins. Okay, let's move right along to Turkey. A similar picture has emerged from more recent Turkish history, with inflation issues provoking a comparable, if not quite as dramatic, swing toward crypto. These issues first became acute when the inflation rate of the Turkish lira, or TRY, climbed to 11.9% in October 2017, as the nation's banks took on risky levels of private debt, as foreign investors moved out of the country, and as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan refused to increase interest rates in response. Following this, Turkish people began looking toward crypto. Although the volumes at the time weren't significantly larger than those for nations with similar GDP levels. For instance, in the week ending November 4th, 2017, 41 Bitcoin was traded for Turkish lira via the local Bitcoin exchange, while in Mexico, which has a similar GDP but an inflation rate of around 4.5%, 38 Bitcoin was traded for Mexican pesos. In other words, relatively high inflation can give a slight boost to crypto adoption, but without hyperinflation, it doesn't result in a dramatic increase. Example, 303 Bitcoin was traded for Venezuelan dollars on the week that ended on November 4th. So they're just pointing out, basically, you guys, a very good indicator of Bitcoin adoption. It definitely looks like hyperinflation. Okay, the worse your inflation is in your country, the more that people are going to look for this alternative. Okay. However, this year there has at least been the threat of hyperinflation, as Turkey entered a nascent crisis, which saw inflation rise to 15.39% at the beginning of July. As a result, there was a 131.9% increase in volume on the local Bitcoin exchange between the beginning of July and the beginning of August, with the BTC trade volume in Turkish lira rising from 327,295 to 759,026 between the week ending July 7th and at the ending of August 11th. Between these two dates, the price of BTC actually sank from $6,670 to $6,145, or minus 7.87%, meaning that this rise can't be accounted for by a strong bull market in Turkey. Similarly, figures from Crypto Compare, code from the BTC Turk and local Bitcoin exchanges, revealed that there were trades in Bitcoin worth try 31,592,628 on August 10th, representing a 424% increase when compared to the 24-hour volume for July 10th, which was try 6,000,126 and 033. Again, that's July 10th. Speaking of the Turkish inflationary crisis and its positive effects on demand for crypto, Shapeshift CEO Eric Voorhees noted on Twitter that Bitcoin's recent resilience in the face of crypto market turbulence had raised its stock as a store of value and made it a viable alternative to the Turkish lira. Eric Voorhees is a very prominent Bitcoin enthusiast with his company Shapeshift, and it's probably be wise to consider what Eric Voorhees is saying. And Bitcoin definitely looks like a store of value choice for a lot of these people, especially given what was particularly happening in Turkey. We've entered a time now where some fiats are far less stable than Bitcoin. Turkish lira plummeting 20% in one day, and he got a hashtag backed by government, hashtag try, hashtag Forex, blah, blah, blah. Eric Voorhees, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It would seem that an increasing number of Turkish people agree with him, given that a June survey from the Ing Bank revealed that Turkey has the highest rate of cryptocurrency ownership in the world, or rather out of 15 countries, including the U.S., Australia, the U.K., France, Germany, and the Netherlands. 18% of Turkish people own some cryptocurrency, compared to 12% for the next highest, which is Romania, which also happens to have the highest rate of inflation among the 14 other nations, and 8% for the United States. So yeah, it looks like there's some correlations here. You can't ignore them. You don't want to ignore them. The more you ruin your economy, the more you're going to be, you're going to force your citizens to adopt Bitcoin. So if the United States wants to create mass adoption and Bitcoin, keep ruining the economy, keep driving up the costs that, for the citizens, the inflation rate, if it keeps going up the way it has been, and the value of the dollar keeps sinking as it has been, and try slapping on some currency controls while you're at it, and I'm pretty sure everybody and their brother-in-law is going to get Bitcoin in the United States. Moving right along. However, an inflation rate of around 15% isn't enough on its own to drive widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies, nor is it sufficient to trigger the process of HyperBitcoinization. For one, even if the TRY/BTC market has enjoyed increases in volume in recent weeks and months, absolute numbers are still comparatively low, with the market currently being the 16th largest for Bitcoin at the time of writing, according to Crypto Compare. This equals a 24-hour volume of BTC $226.09, which is only 0.08% of the total amount traded in a day, and only a 0.48% or 0.68% of the volume traded against the U.S. dollar and Japanese yen, respectively. Also, if you look at the TRY/BTC charts for local Bitcoins, the recent inflation-driven increase over July-August isn't that large, and is actually dwarfed by the trading volumes in Turkish lira as witnessed in April and early June, and particularly during the end of 2017 rush. And in fact, if you compare the TRY/BTC figures for the week ending August 11th against those for the week ending August 18th, during which the crisis reached its peak, with lira falling by as much as 10%, there is a drop rather than an increase. TRY 759,026 was traded for this week ending August 11th, while only TRY 573,626 was traded for the 7 days leading up to August 18th. In contrast to the growth of crypto visible in Venezuela and Zimbabwe, what this lack of a pronounced upswing points to is access to the U.S. dollar, among other fiat currencies and stores of value. In contrast to Venezuela and Zimbabwe, the Turkish government has opted to not set any capital controls, thereby enabling people to buy and sell as much foreign currency as they like. As a result, Turkish investors and the Turkish people have begun buying U.S. dollars and gold, as indicated by how both have risen markedly against the lira, and in turn, neither Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency has seen a big jump in trading volumes recently, even though the longer-term weaknesses of the lira has played a role in giving Turkey one of the highest rates of crypto ownership in the developed world. So it looks like with a lack of capital controls in Turkey, adoption, even though it's high, it could be higher. And some of these statistics point out that when you can get access to fiat, when you can get access to gold, you're going to dampen the effect of massive, quick adoption. So we have to keep that in mind as well. Argentina and reserve currencies. Much the same story can be gleaned from Argentina. At 31.2%, Argentina currently has the highest inflation rate of any moderately sized economy, which the IMF ranks as 21st in terms of GDP. And as can be inferred from such a statistic, currencies should be enjoying a strong following in the South American nation. However, despite the early expectation that Argentina was ripe for Bitcoin adoption, it would seem that the population doesn't currently trade cryptocurrency in impressive numbers on the local Bitcoins